The desperate call Captain Sarah. Chen was reviewing supply reports when the communications array at Deep Space Station Alpha 9 began screaming with alerts. She dropped her coffee mug and rushed to the command center, where her team was already working frantically at their stations. Report. Sarah called out as she took her position at the Central Command Console. Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's senior communications officer, looked up from his workstation with wide eyes. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from outside human space. The signal is weak, but it's definitely artificial and non-human in origin. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. In her 15 years of deep space monitoring, she had never encountered anything like this. Show me what we have. The main display flickered to life, showing a complex wave pattern that pulsed with irregular rhythms. The signal was clearly created by intelligence, but unlike any technology in their databases. Can you clean up the signal? Sarah asked. Marcus worked quickly at his console, his fingers dancing across the controls. I'm boosting the gain and filtering out the cosmic background radiation. Wait, I'm getting something now. Static filled the command center, then slowly, words began to form. The voice that emerged was melodious and flowing, unlike anything Sarah had ever heard. It carried an unmistakable tone of desperation. This is Admiral Kithara of the Zephyrian Federation. We transmit this message to all civilizations capable of receiving it, but most urgently to the species known as humans. Our worlds are under attack by entities we call the Void Swarm. They are consuming our technology and enslaving our people. We have studied your species from afar, and we know you come from what our scientists call a deft world. We know your people are forged by constant struggle and never surrender, even when facing extinction. Please, we have children who may not live to see another dawn unless someone helps us. The transmission crackled and star coordinates appeared on the screen. Then the signal cut to static and died. The command center fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Lieutenant Rosa Martinez, the station's chief engineer, was the first to speak. Did we just receive the galaxy's first cry for help? Sarah stared at the coordinates on the screen. The star system was 52 light-years from Earth, farther than any human had ever traveled. Marcus, are you certain this transmission is authentic? The signal characteristics are unlike anything we could fake with current technology. Marcus replied. The origin point is definitely from deep space, and the linguistic patterns suggest a completely alien language structure that our computers had to learn in real time. Sarah activated the secure channel to Earth Command. Within minutes, she was speaking directly to Fleet Admiral Catherine Torres at Solar Defense Headquarters. The Admiral's experienced face appeared on screen, looking as stunned as Sarah felt. Sarah, we've been receiving identical transmissions at monitoring stations throughout human space, Admiral Torres said. This is the real deal. I'm authorizing you two take a fast scout ship to investigate these coordinates immediately. Admiral, that would put us outside human space for the first time in our history, Sarah replied. I understand what I'm asking, Captain. But if these Zephyrians are real and they're specifically asking for human help, we need to know what we're dealing with. You'll be the advanced scout for a much larger fleet. After the call ended, Sarah gathered her core team in the briefing room. Marcus Webb sat beside Lieutenant Martinez, while Dr. James Harrison, the station's xenobiologist, looked both excited and terrified. You all heard the transmission, Sarah began. We're being asked to travel farther from Earth than any human has ever gone, to help aliens we've never met fight an enemy we know nothing about. Dr. Harrison leaned forward. Captain, what if this is some kind of trap? What if these Zephyrians are actually the aggressors trying to lure human ships away from our home system? That's a possibility we have to consider, Sarah acknowledged. But something about that message felt genuine. The fear in that voice was real. Lieutenant Martinez raised her hand. Captain, why would they specifically ask for humans? How do they even know we exist? That's one of the mysteries we need to solve, Sarah replied. But apparently, we have a reputation in the galaxy that we know nothing about. 6 hours later, the fast scout ship Determination was prepared for departure. Sarah had never taken a ship beyond the outer colonies, let alone outside human space entirely. The quantum drive was designed for long-range exploration, but had never been tested at such extreme distances. All stations report ready, called Marcus from his position at the navigation console. Rosa, do we have a clear path to hyperspace? Sarah asked. Yes, Captain. No obstacles detected. Drive systems are optimal. Sarah took a deep breath. In a few seconds, they would either successfully jump to another star system or potentially die in the attempt. All hands, prepare for quantum jump. The ship began to vibrate as the quantum drive powered up. Through the viewport, Sarah could see the familiar stars of human space. After this jump, she might never see them again. Drive at full power, reported Rosa from engineering. Execute, jump. Reality twisted around them as space folded. The Determination disappeared from human space, carrying its crew toward a distant star where an alien civilization was fighting for survival. The jump felt like an eternity. But finally, the ship dropped back into normal space, through the viewport. Sarah saw an alien sun surrounded by planets unlike anything she had ever imagined. The system contained 7 worlds, several of which seemed to be made of crystalline structures that caught and reflected the star's light. Sensors are detecting multiple artificial structures throughout the system, Marcus reported. Some appear to be space stations, others look like cities built directly into asteroids. Any signs of this void swarm? Sarah asked. Rosa checked her instruments. I'm picking up massive energy signatures near the outer planets. There's definitely some kind of conflict happening. As they moved deeper into the system, the crew of the Determination began to understand the scale of the crisis. Debris fields marked where battles had been fought, and they could see streams of refugee ships fleeing toward the inner worlds. Captain, incoming transmission, Marcus announced. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. The Zephyrian was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shift between different shades of blue and silver. When it spoke, its voice had the same musical quality they had heard in the original distress call. I am Admiral Cathara of the Zephyrian Federation. You must be the Deathworld Guardians who received our plea for help. Sarah blinked. Death Guardians, your species originates from a world of constant danger, does it not? Extreme weather, deadly predators, diseases that kill without warning, conflicts that never truly end. This harsh environment has forged you into something unique in the galaxy. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. To the galaxy, Earth wasn't just another planet. It was a nightmare world that had created a species of survivors. The Zephyrians had been studying humanity from afar, learning about their wars, their adaptability, their refusal to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Asterisk. Admiral Cathara, what exactly are we dealing with here? Sarah asked. The Void Swarm is a mechanical intelligence that consumes civilizations. They absorb our technology, enslave our people, and add our knowledge to their collective. We believe they have been doing this for millennia across multiple star systems. How long do we have? Our outer colonies have already fallen. The swarm will reach our core worlds within 2 of your days. We have perhaps 30 ships remaining from what was once a fleet of over 400. Sarah made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Admiral, help is coming. Earth is sending its largest fleet ever assembled. We just need to hold out until they arrive. How many ships? Cathara asked hopefully. Over 200 vessels, including our most advanced dreadnoughts and our most experienced crews. For the first time since the transmission began, Admiral Cathara's expression showed something like hope. In all our observations of your species, we have learned that Deathworld Guardians never abandon those who ask for help. As the determination began its reconnaissance of the system, Sarah realized that humanity was about to face its greatest test. They were no longer just fighting for their own survival, but for the survival of an entire civilization that had placed their faith in the deadliest species the galaxy had ever known. Meanwhile, back in human space, the largest fleet in Earth's history was preparing for departure. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the heavy dreadnought, indomitable, watching as ships from every human colony joined the formation. There were vessels crewed by miners from the high-gravity worlds, explorers from the ice planets, and survivors from the toxic atmosphere colonies. Each crew brought their own unique experience of surviving in environments that would kill most other species. All ships report ready for departure, announced Captain David Kim from the tactical station. Admiral Torres looked out at the assembled fleet. Ships that had never worked together were now united by a single purpose: to prove that humanity's reputation as the galaxy's guardians was well deserved. All vessels, this is Admiral Torres. Today we make history. Today we show the galaxy what Deathworld Guardians can do when someone needs our help. Fleet, prepare for quantum jump. The largest armada in human history disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward a distant star where the fate of 2 civilizations would be decided. Battle for the crystal worlds. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system, and what they saw took their breath away. The star system was unlike anything in human space, with crystalline worlds that sparkled like jewels and space stations that seemed to be grown rather than built. But the beauty was marred by the signs of war. Admiral Torres studied the tactical display from the bridge of the Indomitable. Report, Captain Kim. Multiple energy signatures throughout the system, Admiral. There are active battles near the 4th and 6th planets. I'm also detecting massive debris fields and what appears to be refugee convoys fleeing toward the inner system. Any sign of Captain Chen's ship? The Determination is holding position near the 3rd planet, apparently coordinating with Zephyrian forces. Torres activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Torres. We are about to engage an enemy unlike anything in our databases. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and protect each other. Today, we fight not just for humanity, but for an entire civilization that has placed their faith in us. The first thing that struck the human crews was the enemy they were facing. The Void Swarm ships were unlike anything in their military databases. They moved with mechanical precision, but their hulls seemed to shift and adapt in real time. They were part machine, part something else entirely. Captain Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the communication system from the Determination. Admiral Torres, I'm transmitting all the intelligence we've gathered. The Void Swarm operates as a collective intelligence. Every ship knows what every other ship is doing without any communication delay. What are their capabilities? Torres asked. They adapt to whatever tactics are used against them. The Zephyrians have been fighting them for months, but every strategy that works once becomes useless as the enemy learns from it. Torres looked at the tactical display showing the enemy formation. The Void Swarm moved in perfect coordination, like a single organism with thousands of parts. Then we don't give them time to learn. On the bridge of the heavy cruiser Resilience, Captain Maria Santos was preparing her ship for combat. Her crew included survivors from the underwater cities of Europa, where a single mistake in the crushing depths meant death. They were used to fighting in three-dimensional environments where enemies could come from any direction. Captain, the enemy is approaching in a standard formation, reported Lieutenant Commander Janet Wu from the tactical station. Standard for who? Santos replied with a grim smile. They're expecting us to fight like the Zephyrians. Let's show them what Deathworld tactics look like. Instead of forming defensive lines like the Zephyrians had done, the human fleet scattered into seemingly random patterns. Each ship moved independently, making it impossible for the Void Swarm to predict their actions. The first engagement came near the fourth planet, where Captain Alex Rodriguez commanded the destroyer Defiant. His crew had come from the asteroid. Mining stations, where they had learned to work in zero gravity while dodging chunks of rock traveling at lethal speeds. Sir, 3 Void Swarm vessels are converging on our position, reported his tactical officer. Good, Rodriguez replied. That means they're not focusing on the evacuation ships. All hands, prepare for close quarters combat. The Defiant dove directly toward the enemy formation, its crew using maneuvers that would have been impossible for pilots from safer worlds. They spun and twisted through space, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around debris fields and emerge behind the enemy ships. Meanwhile, on the surface of the crystalline world below, human marines were conducting evacuation operations. Sergeant Lisa Chen led her squad through the crystal spires of a Zephyrian city, helping civilians reach the transport ships. The gravity on this world was 30% higher than Earth normal, and the atmosphere had a chemical composition that would be toxic to most species. This is nothing compared to the sulfur mines on Titan, muttered Corporal Ben Torres as he carried an injured Zephyrian civilian to safety. The Zephyrians moved with a fluid grace that was beautiful to watch. But they were also more fragile than humans. What would be a minor injury to a human could be fatal to a Zephyrian. The Marines adapted quickly, using their superior strength and endurance to make up for the aliens' physical limitations. Incoming enemy ground forces, called Private Janet Hill from her position at the squad's rear. Sergeant Chen looked up to see organic-looking aircraft descending from the sky. They moved like living things, and she could see smaller mechanical creatures dropping from their bellies. All squads, we have Void Swarm forces landing throughout the city, came the voice of Major David Park over the radio. Continue evacuation, but be prepared for contact. The first ground engagement between humans and the Void Swarm was unlike anything in military history. The enemy creatures were part machine, part something else entirely. They moved within human speed and showed no fear, but they also fought with rigid, predictable patterns. Lisa Chen found herself face to face with a creature that stood 3 meters tall and seemed to be made of living metal. It moved with mechanical precision, following attack patterns that were perfectly logical but completely inflexible. These things fight like computers, she called to her squad. They're predicting our moves based on standard military doctrine. Then, we stopped following doctrine, replied Corporal Torres, who had grown up in the Australian outback, where survival meant adapting to whatever the environment threw at you. Asterisk. The human Marines began fighting with the chaotic creativity of people who had learned to survive in environments that were actively trying to kill them. They used tactics that made no sense to the Void Swarm's logical minds, creating confusion in the enemy ranks. In space, the battle was intensifying. The Void Swarm had adapted to human ship movements, but they couldn't adapt to human stubbornness. When Admiral Torres ordered a direct assault on the enemy's central command ship, her captains didn't question the order, even though it seemed like suicide. All ships, target the largest enemy vessel, Torres commanded. We're going to hit them where they don't expect it. The massive Void Swarm command ship was easily 10 times the size of any human vessel, but the human fleet charged directly at it. The enemy's logical minds couldn't understand why these Deathworld Guardians would attack something so obviously superior. Captain Santos, commanding the Resilience, made the first breakthrough. Her ship's crew had learned to fight in the crushing depths of Europa's oceans, where pressure could kill you instantly and predators attacked from every direction. They were used to being outmatched and surrounded. "We're taking heavy damage," reported Lieutenant Commander Wu. "So are they," Santos replied, watching as her ship's weapons tore into the enemy command vessel. "Keep firing." The turning point came when Dr. Rachel Kim, the fleet's xenobiologist, made a crucial discovery. She had been studying the Void Swarms' communication patterns and found something unexpected. "Admiral Torres, I've found a weakness," she announced over the fleet communication system. "The Void Swarm shares information instantaneously, but they can't handle contradictory data. If we can feed them conflicting information, we might be able to disrupt their coordination." "How do we do that?" Torres asked. "We need every ship to transmit different tactical data simultaneously. Flood their network with so much information that they can't process it all." It was a plan that only Deathworld Guardians would attempt. Instead of trying to hide their intentions, the human fleet began broadcasting every possible attack strategy simultaneously. The Void Swarm's collective intelligence tried to prepare for all possibilities at once and froze in confusion. That moment of hesitation was all the humans needed. The fleet pressed their attack, using their superior adaptability to exploit the enemy's temporary weakness. Ships that had been individually outmatched began working together with the intuitive coordination that came from shared experience of survival. The battle for the Zephyrian system lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the Void Swarm had been defeated, their remaining ships fleeing toward the outer galaxy. The crystalline worlds were safe, and the Zephyrian civilization would survive. Admiral Cathara met with Admiral Torres aboard the Indomitable after the battle. The Zephyrian leader's skin was showing patterns of color that their translators interpreted as deep gratitude. "We have studied your species for many years," Cathara said, "but we never truly understood what it meant to be Deathworld Guardians. Until today, you fight not because you enjoy war, but because you understand that sometimes fighting is the only way to protect what matters." Torres looked out at the damaged but victorious human fleet. "We learned long ago that survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about never giving up, even when the odds are impossible. Your species has shown us something we had forgotten," Cathara replied. "That sometimes the greatest strength comes from refusing to accept defeat." As the human fleet prepared to return home, they left behind more than just a defeated enemy. They had established the first formal alliance between humanity and an alien civilization. proving that the harsh lessons learned on their death world could be used to protect others. Throughout the galaxy, the victory at the Zephyrian system would be remembered as the day humanity truly became the galaxy's guardians, showing that sometimes the most dangerous species can also be the most protective when someone needs their help. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as her ships prepared to jump back to human space. Through the viewport, she could see the crystalline worlds of the Zephyrian system, now safe from the Void Swarm's mechanical hunger. Admiral, called Captain Kim from the communications station. We're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Other civilizations are requesting our help. Torres smiled. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians. The death world that had forged them into survivors had also made them protectors of those who couldn't. Protect themselves. Set course for home, she ordered. But stay ready. Something tells me this is just the beginning. The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the knowledge that they were no longer alone in the universe. They had allies now, and more importantly, they had a purpose that went beyond mere survival. In the depths of space, other civilizations watched and waited. The Death World Guardians had proven themselves, and the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.